testing that one out.
Use that only from this point forward.
Good. It's the surprise, the shock and all
What did you say?
intro.
A new
We live?
So next week I'm gonna like walk off the screen like not wearing pants or something,
I'm back.
I know, right?
like not prepared at all. Anyway, good morning, everybody.
Good
How you guys
morning.
doing, Randall and Danny? Good morning
Oh,
to you.
doing great.
Happy Saturday. It's nice and bright and early, 9 a.m.
Saturday.
What's the date and year? Because I am so
February
out of it if you don't tell me.
22nd, 2025.
Yeah,
Believe it or
February's
not.
almost over.
I know it's kind of crazy.
This is our last live stream for
I feel
February
like it's
this
gonna
year.
go fast. Yeah,
Dude, it already is. It's already the second month's almost over, dude. They
I
go so
know.
quick.
it's wild. We're gonna have to do quarterly planning pretty soon.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That'd be cool.
I don't know, it's crazy as you get older too, how fast a year seems. You know? Like
Yeah.
it's and I mean it makes sense when you're 4 years old, it's a quarter of your life, right? So like it feels long, but like it just goes so quick. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think I know this is totally off topic, but I think I'm gonna add that prompt that I just told you guys to the quarterly planning because I think that would be
That's
really
a good
good.
idea.
So anybody inside the incubator is gonna get a little special treat for the next quarterly planning.
Oh, that would be a good
Absolutely.
one, dude, to upload your previous quarterly plan and then use that prompt with it.
Dang. Yeah.
Talking about the incubator, we have a special deal going on that
We
until
do.
tomorrow, correct?
Until tomorrow, yes. So if you guys are on the fence, if you've been considering the incubator, we do have a special deal that does not come up often. Normally, we charge $4.97 per month, which I promise you, it's worth every penny of that plus more. You can ask
Pretty much
anybody
everybody
inside
in
the
the
group.
incubator has gotten work as web developers within a year, so it's
Yeah.
pretty legit.
And many of them within a few weeks.
Yeah.
And it's most of that is just a mindset shift. So if you are looking to like actually make money as a developer, most of that is not your skill set. It's about like, are you
Well, it's the
in the
power
right
of community,
mindset? Do you
right?
have community? Do you have the support to make it happen? So anyway, with all that said, it's normally $4.97 per month. Until tomorrow, it's $2.97 per month, which is a pretty sick deal. You're getting like 40% off or something.
And how does
Um,
someone get that deal?
all you got to do is go to codenoobs.io, scroll down the page, you'll see the web dev incubator, just click into that and you'll see it's already set up. It's called the relaunch monthly. You don't even have to touch anything. The discount's already applied. It should be $2.97 per month. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, but it's there till tomorrow, so take advantage of it while it's there because it's not going to be there forever.
I was gonna say too, that the other thing I think that people forget is like this is one of those fields where you can learn on your own, but I think most people fail because we're also social beings, and without like that community,
Hmm.
it's so much harder to keep going and know what to do, and just to get that sort of confirmation that you're doing the right thing too, and that
Yeah.
you know what's going on is like so helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. The like to tie this all in, the prompt that I just gave you guys, that I shared with you guys, which I'll share in the group. If you guys are in the incubator, I'm going to share it with you guys later. But it's a really amazing prompt, and some of the feedback that it gave me, which I already kind of knew, is that one of the issues that I struggle with is delegation. And the reality is, like, I've always operated under the presumption that I can do everything best, so I should do everything.
Yeah.
Right. That's sort of
Right.
been my like go to. And that's not a great model because it doesn't scale. Right. Like, there's only one of me. So, and this is the same, right? What I'm getting at here is that you want to become a developer, and we have this idea of like we can just become a developer in isolation, but the truth is that never happens. That's never happened for anybody. Every developer has either had a community through a university, through a boot camp, through just networking, through their job. Like, you at some point as in your career as a developer, you have to have some community. So you might as well start now, right? This is your best opportunity to really become a developer by joining a developer community. So that all to say, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Robert, Bryce, Brandy, Christian, and anybody else that I missed. Good morning, everybody. Good to see y'all here joining the community. So
What
yeah.
is the topic for today?
Today's topic
Yeah.
is, we did this one specially for you, Bryce. I know you're out there. I know you were like waiting to jump on this live stream today because it's all about learning Python as a complete beginner. And we joke with Bryce all the time about Python, and I don't want to give him too much of a hard time, but He likes Python, and who
He
doesn't, right?
does,
So
yeah. I mean, Python's a great language. It is.
yeah, it
Well,
really is. And
for those of you watching a live stream or watching the video down afterwards, let us know if you've ever tried coding before, what your
yeah,
language of choice is, and if you're interested in learning Python, what's your reason for wanting to learn Python? We'd love to
yeah.
know. Comment
Do you
below.
just like snakes? Is it like I don't know.
Yeah, the fun little pictures
Is
on
it
all the
like a
books.
reptile thing that you're into,
Well,
or
I actually will say, like, because I started with Python, and I know you guys have learned it too in the
I
past as
started
well.
with
I
Python
think
Yeah.
too.
everybody starts with
Well,
Yeah.
Python.
I will
Yeah.
say, like, I'll say my reasoning, like, when we were first getting, like, this was before we even did the boot camp, this is like when I was trying to get back into it again. I looked at all the different languages and like, and maybe, and I think it's the same probably experience a lot of people have. Python is the easiest to read. It
Yeah,
is the
it's the
hands
most
down.
human readable
It
for
is.
sure.
Well, they
Yeah.
literally created language with that in mind. So it like
Yeah.
it reads almost like text on a page. Like it's very clear. It uses indentation. So like it doesn't have all these weird symbols and weird things that can like cause it to break. Like, you're missing a
Yeah.
semicolon or something. And I think there is like because of that, it has this like lower bar of entry and
Yeah.
you're learning all the same concepts, skills, things that problem solving stuff that you need for any language. So I think there is value in that side of it. That like
Yeah.
it's not gonna, but
I
it
think
can slow your growth depending on what you want to do too. That's the other side.
yeah, I think one of the like first sort of developer milestones that I personally experienced, and you guys can tell me if you experience this too, was looking at some code that was not my code and being able to read it, right? Like being able to actually see, maybe I can't reproduce that code, maybe I can't like write that for myself, but I can actually read like what's happening line by line. And I think that's one of the benefits of Python is that it gets you to that milestone very quickly because you can basically just read whatever
Yeah.
the code is and more or less understand it. There might be some digging you have to do, but yeah.
Well, that's a really good point because most of your job as a developer is spent reading code. You remember that? Was it in
Right.
Clean
Yes.
Code where
Yeah.
he talks
Hmm.
about how like, he
90% of the time.
It's just
yeah.
He
scrolling.
said, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah,
just
just
scrolling through code
scrolling,
reading
reading
it.
code.
Yeah.
So if
Which,
you can find code that you can read, it'll make the learning curve a little bit easier for you.
yeah. One of the, like, I think there's a few other things that sort of attract people to Python in the beginning. Obviously, readability, but also just like writability and debugging. I think Python, it doesn't have pretty much all of its accessory characters. Like if you think about JavaScript, you have like square brackets, dot notation, question marks, curly braces. I don't know. There's a million semicolons, commas. Like there's all these different punctuation that have to be appropriately placed or else it won't work. And it
Yeah.
even depends upon like the type of file, like if it's a JSON file or not, or like
Well, you know what?
it
Actually,
just gets very confusing. And Python handles this quite beautifully. They really just have like a colon and indentation.
well, it's like, what's funny? It's like JavaScript template literals where you can write a string and
Right.
inject
Yeah.
variables, right? You
Backticks,
have to use backticks, which
dollar
I didn't
signs,
even know what
curly
the hell
braces.
where a backtick was on the keyboard, dude,
Yeah.
originally. I was like, what the hell is that? Python, for that same sort of functionality, you just put an F in front of the actual quotes. And
Right.
that
Yeah.
changes it.
It's like,
Like
there
it's
you
so much
go.
easier. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think they did
You know,
really focus on that part of it that makes it so much easier to learn.
it's funny now that, since I'm a developer and I've started looking at keyboards over the past few years, one of the things that I always look for is the backtick to make sure, because not all keyboards have it. And so I'm always like, ooh, does that have the backtick? Because I know I need that. But
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think you even use a backtick in Python. Um,
No.
but yeah. So,
Yeah, Joshua commented that
oh
he's a
yeah.
seasoned .NET developer and he's going back to focus on some other languages like Python, JavaScript, and Ruby. And he says learning Python at this point is more like welcome to
Yeah.
easy mode. And
Yeah, I
that,
bet.
but that's like a really important thing to note if you are beginning coding because why start with the hardest languages if you can start in easy mode? Because
Right.
if you start with the really hard languages and get frustrated, you may just quit.
Yeah.
But
That's
if
what
you're in
I
easy
did.
mode,
That's what
yeah,
I did.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we
Same.
well, and no, that's a good point too. Like
Literally,
earlier,
like,
too, when we were younger, and all of us had gotten into this when we were young and stopped. it's like it was so much harder to learn. There were so few choices. And all
Yeah.
these things came out for a reason. All these different languages, all these higher level languages came out for a reason, which was there was a problem they were solving. Python, a big part of that was like clean and readable, right? And making it
Yeah.
easier for people to become programmers. So I think, yeah, there it is like a fact about Python that makes it a really welcoming language when you're first starting
Yeah,
out. And you
for
learn all
sure.
the same concepts. Like I think that's the important thing to keep in mind is like every language at bottom is the same. They're doing the same things. So you're
Yeah.
learning all the same concepts and stuff. So it will get you there and it's a good stepping stone, I think. But just be mindful that like, I think it depends on where you want to go with your career ultimately that, Python
Yeah.
may be something you use, it may not.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's one of the best languages for beginners, but I also want to talk some shit on Python. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I'm
for
uh,
it.
waiting for that too.
yeah. So
Bryce, earmuffs.
yeah, earmuffs. I would say, like, honestly, my biggest gripe with Python is not really a gripe with Python per se, but it is a gripe with learning Python for beginners. And here's the big thing. I think Python can be conceptually a little bit hard for beginners to understand because you are working pretty much primarily in the terminal. And for beginners, Bash and terminal can be look like hacking, like it can look like the Matrix. And so that can be a little bit daunting. And also, since you're working in the terminal, you don't have any like for the most part, until you start using like a framework, you don't have any web interface or user interface at all, right? Like you're just in the
No.
terminal. So it's great, it works. You can learn the basics with it, but when you want to start building with Python, you need some other component, right? You need to know how to build a website, or you're going to have to learn something else too, unless your goal is to just build, terminal apps until you land a back-end developer job. But that's probably unlikely if you're not already have some experience working with a website. So I think that's, to me, one of the biggest like setbacks is that it's awesome. You can learn the basics, but you still have to learn something else at some point. Go ahead, Randall.
I want to continue what you're saying there because yes, you can learn the basics, but
Yeah.
then it's really hard to move from knowing the basics to actually finding work in
Hmm.
Python because
Hmm.
something's happened in the past 5 years. You might have heard of it. It's called AI, and it's basically replaced the
Yeah,
job of
right.
every junior developer. So now
Yeah.
businesses don't need junior developers because they prompt AI. They can get something done more reliably in a lot less time. And so because of that, you basically need to get the beginning experience by yourself. And if you're
Yeah.
just learning Python, it can be more challenging to do that because you're like, what do I do now? I know data structures, I know for loops, I know all this stuff. What am I supposed to do now? Whereas with other languages like JavaScript, like some JavaScript frameworks, you can go ahead and build websites for a bunch of people, get a bunch of experience on your own, and then you have a ton of experience and you can get pretty much any job you want.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it is. I think it depends on what you want to focus on, right? Because it's heavily back end too, and it's used a lot in like cloud stuff. So if that's really your focus, it's a good thing to learn, definitely. And I mean, I
yeah,
think, but front end wise, it's not like even like I mean, I myself when I was learning, I used Django a lot just so that I could have something to see when you're working
that's what
with
I
it.
mean. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're like,
because
I mean, I think this is a little bit of an unfair comparison, but I'm going to make it anyway, is using
say whatever you want.
Python as the crutch to help you uh in like your career as a software developer. I'm going to say as a web developer because software developer could just be Python. So if you're using Python as a crutch to learn web development, it's sort of like using training wheels on a bicycle, right? You have the option to just ride the bicycle without training wheels, and in other words, use JavaScript or learn just like web development. And you might fall down and like skin your knee a couple times, and it'll suck, and it'll be a little bit harder, but you're still going to learn it. With Python, there's sort of training wheels. Like obviously, you're still going to fall a little bit, but like it's easier. But then you're still going to eventually have to sort of graduate to. And I'm curious, actually. I know Bryce is in the comments, so I'm curious, Bryce, what has your experience been? Because I know Bryce kind of started with web development, then switched over to Python and has been building a lot with Python, and now he's sort of building front end with I think Next and some backend with Python or swapping that to
You can
JavaScript
combine
code.
them.
But
Yeah, you
yeah,
can combine them, no problem. I think that's the other thing to keep in mind is like there's no reason why you can't use something on the front end and then they use Python backend and stuff like that. If you really want to.
yeah,
I will say too, like from my own experience, like the first job I did was for a client. They needed something, they needed basically a web app, but it was in-house, locally
and that
served.
was Python, right?
Yeah, so I used
Yeah,
Python because it was locally served. It worked
yeah,
perfectly well in that instance.
yeah,
And it also allowed me to learn a ton. After that, when I switched over, after I was done that job, I started learning Next in JavaScript. It
yeah.
wasn't hard to learn because I had already had a huge
Right.
foundation by that point, so it wasn't a big deal. But, looking back, like if I was going to start over, I don't know if I would have learned Python first because really I don't use it as much anymore. So because of what
Yeah.
I focus on, and I think that's the point
I
to keep
think
in mind.
that's the
Like,
bigger issue. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like, what do you eventually want to do? And I think, that's something that we didn't really bring up, but that's a really good point is what is your end goal here? Because if it is to be a backend developer, you're probably going to use Python a lot.
or data
But
science because Python's
yeah,
like built for that too. I mean, it is literally the packages for that are amazing.
yes,
So yeah,
totally. Um, but if you want to become a web developer, like Python will get you there, but it's not the most direct route. And it's really just training wheels, right? Because eventually you're gonna have to graduate up to JavaScript. Like you kind of can't avoid JavaScript if you
well,
want to work
you
in
still
web
have to use
development.
it anyway. Like I
Yeah,
mean, you
like you
still need
can't.
it. I still had to use JavaScript even in Django because you need it to manipulate the front end regardless. So it's
Yeah,
like not
yeah.
like you can.
Bryce literally just said that too. He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to be a web developer, JavaScript is where it's at. If you want to do data science, then Python.
Okay, so
I,
I got a question for you guys.
yeah,
So let's say that you wanted to go the Python route because you want to go with the easiest language to learn initially and then decide later on maybe go ahead and change it.
yeah,
So how would you get started nowadays learning Python?
I'll tell you
yeah,
exactly what I would do because this is what I
Yeah.
did. Just go
yeah,
get Python Crash Course is actually really good.
yeah.
Start, but get it and go through it page by page
It's
and do everything. Type everything out, do the whole thing. You got it right there, right? Go through all of it.
I don't have
Do
the Python one, but I
okay.
have the JavaScript one.
Same book,
So
same
it's
basic
this,
book, right?
but it
Yeah,
says Python up here.
and it's got a little snake. But
Yeah.
yeah, do that, and then it has 3 projects in the back. Do all 3 projects and expand on them. Do
Yeah.
something different with them, and you will have a pretty good foundation to start with in Python. Like you
Yeah.
will be at a good place, I think. That
I'm
is
gonna I'm gonna
okay.
add to that. Like I think that's superior. I think the same thing if you were trying to learn JavaScript, just get
Those
this
books are
book
good. Yeah.
and make sure you use our affiliate link. Get this book. And yeah, this is actually Bryce's affiliate link. Use it, use that book, read the whole thing, really digest it. And I will say this, like when you read these books, don't read coding books like you read novels. The point is not to just get to the end of it, it's to understand it. So take a lot of time to understand each
Do chapters
individual
twice,
piece.
three
Yeah,
times if you
like
need to, like literally.
yes. Um, I would say this too, and I think this is like obviously there's a million and one ways that you can learn Python. It's really again, it's like the we say this all the time, but like the information is out there for free. Like there's nobody's hiding how to code in Python. It's out there. You can get it for free or very cheap. There's a million ways to do it. You can use YouTube videos. I personally started with Code Academy, which I think Code Academy is a great platform because they do a really good job at teaching the concepts, giving you practical work along as you're learning. It's not like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to teach you a bunch of stuff and then we'll do some big coding project. It's like learn a little bit, do like action on that. The only problem that I have with Code Academy is that there's a built-in IDE. So you're coding in the browser, and so it doesn't give you the real experience of a developer working in VS Code and then like pushing, hosting projects in a browser and things like that. So I think it's a good option for Python because again, you're not using a web browser, you're not designing a UI, so that's a great option for Python. I think Code Academy is great. I think a book is also great. It just kind of depends a little bit upon your preferred learning style too.
This is also a point about why people learn Python first, because there's a ton of resources
Oh
for
God, there's
Python.
so many.
If
Yeah.
you're trying to learn a little bit more of an obscure language like Ruby or
COBOL.
Go or
Go,
like
go vote.
yeah, COBOL, Lisp, something like that, the resources are a bit less
Yeah.
prevalent. But Python, you can find them all over the place. Like Bryce says, there's a whole bunch of no starch books. There's like the Python one-liners, which was really
Which is really
cool to
good.
automate the
Yeah.
boring stuff with Python. There's a whole bunch of different Python books out there. And so it's finding really what does it for you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's also, yeah, Bryce has also been doing boot.dev, which you just mentioned, which is good. I mean, there's so many resources. The other thing I would say too is, and this is what I did early on too, is Python's actually like got a very good documentation. You can download it as a PDF if you want. Django's got good documentation. Like, go to the docs and then start doing your own projects as soon as you can. Like, just because that's where you learn the most. We say this
Yeah.
all the time, but if you don't have like a client, just build something for yourself. Make up a project and do it, because it's the way you're going to learn from start to finish to do these things. We got some really good
Yeah.
comments too.
Yeah.
Joshua mentioned HackerRank, and there's HackerRank, there's Code Wars, there's Leap Code, there's probably a bunch of
Yeah.
other ones. Wasn't HackerRank the one that also has like the Python certification? Remember we did
Probably.
that course? What was it?
Oh, you're talking, wait, what the heck?
I don't know.
I can't remember now.
I don't know
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
course you're
it was a
talking about.
while ago. It was years ago,
Yeah.
but I think they had
Oh,
some type of like Python certification type of thing.
They
Yeah,
have a
and
lot of
that's a
stuff
great way
there,
to
but
get
yeah.
daily experience. Like I know some people here in Code Noobs group are doing uh
yeah.
daily
Yeah. Leak
problems
codes.
and posting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Which
know,
is
the other
awesome. If
That's
you
a great
guys,
way to be
yeah.
accountable. That's
you
a
know the
brilliant
other thing,
idea.
the
Yeah.
LinkedIn Learning, because I used to be like
Hmm.
Lydia or whatever. I got that free through work, and some people might get that free through their work organization. If you do, there's lots of good development learning courses on there as well
Yeah.
for Python and for
I
every language,
I will
honestly.
also say this too. If you don't have a job, so you don't have work or you don't have some way of getting these free resources, you literally don't have any money. Like, I mean, this is one of the cool things about coding is you don't have to have anything. You have to
Yeah.
have like a phone basically to be able to learn this stuff. But obviously YouTube is always a good source, but one other one that I think a lot of people overlook is you live somewhere and wherever you live has a library, and your library probably has access to a lot of online resources that are paid. Like I know through my library, I can get access to a ton of Udemy courses, and Udemy has tons of stuff on coding, Python,
Oh yeah,
JavaScript, web
my library
development, all
offers
that
that
stuff.
too. Yeah, you should
Yeah.
check it out, because
So
they can also lend you, actually. You can also get computers and stuff literally from
yeah, like
libraries, like
literally
everything.
there's it's incredible like how much we don't take advantage of some of the free government resources that are made to be available for everyone. Like your library is a place to go and learn, right?
Yeah,
It's a quiet space to practice. Like you can go there. There's books there on web
you know,
development too and Python, I'm sure.
Eddie made a
Books.
good point
Ew,
too, which is
gross.
there's a lot of
Who
if
reads
you go
those?
if you go on YouTube too now, and
So
Eddie made a good
papery.
point. There's a
Sorry.
lot of really good college courses that you can view for free.
Yeah.
You know, on YouTube or on these other, I forget what the other, like Coursera, like stuff like
Yeah,
that.
Coursera. I mean, most
Yeah,
of these college courses too, like this is pretty insane, right? You can basically do
like the
like a
Harvard.
full career. Actually,
You
it's
can pay
funny.
$100,000 a year to go to MIT, or you could do it for free online.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny because I was just reading that ultra learning book again, and he was talking about this, how you can basically go and audit full like college course curriculums. Like you could
yeah.
become a software developer and do every class they do at Harvard for free online. Like literally the same exact class. So to say that it's too tough to find information or whatever would be crazy. Want to make the MIT
Take the
computer
MIT
science
Harvard
course.
computer science course.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
they're all available though. And I
Yeah.
think that, but this is the thing, is like, if you look, they're a good resource too. Like if you want to learn the larger concepts and stuff, that is a good place to go, because
Yeah.
that's mostly what those college courses deal with, is not the practical stuff. They deal with the higher level theoretical conceptual stuff, but that's stuff that, like, as a programmer and developer, knowing that will make it easier. So there
Yeah.
is some value in doing that, because like we talk about that all the time. Once those big concepts start to click, you start to figure out how to put these things together a lot faster, and it makes more sense.
Yeah. And I
So
think go
uh,
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
think one area where a lot of people can get stuck is like, let's say they're learning Python. and they've gone through a lot of material. They've learned their basic data structures, variables, all of those things. They've learned their control flows, so their loops, all of that stuff. And then they're like, what do I do now?
Yeah. No,
That's
it's a great point.
I think that's a point where basically people just say, okay, now I'll just learn another language. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
and they just do it again and again in a different language.
So
So what does someone do if they're learning
I
Python?
think that's a
They've
good point. And I want to say one other thing, which is before you even get to this phase where you've learned all this stuff and it's like ready to move on to the next step, if you're like at the point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to learn Python and you want to know what to learn, just do this. Go to ChatGPT and say, I am brand new to Python. What are the most
Eh.
important concepts that I need to learn to master this language? And you will just get a list of like everything you need to learn. And then take each one of those and go look up like 3 YouTube videos about it. And so to answer your question, the next thing after that is you got to build stuff, right? And explore packages because that's one of the benefits of Python and really in web development too. We have this but you have pip, right? So you can install all these different packages that do different things. And I would say just start exploring and building things. Again, Python is meant, primarily for data science, AI, machine learning. So use it for those things, right? Like use TensorFlow and use some of the
Well, I was
like
gonna say, yeah, there's a
more
lot of
popular packages.
if that's what you if your area of interest too, if you find yourself learning Python, you realize, wow, I really like big data, I really like learning about AI, whatever. If you're attracted to those, then start seeking out the resources that will help you learn that area more. Because then
Yeah,
you're going to get more into like specific packages like NumPy and stuff like that, which are their own thing themselves, and you need to like learn as well. So like you can go into like, there's I forget what it's called. There's a Google offers like I know they offer a certificate, it might be on Coursera for like data science that handles Python and stuff, and like a lot of these packages and stuff to deal with like what you would need if you were doing that type of job. And
yeah,
then, building your own, like you said, your own projects that can show off that you know how to do this stuff. Even if they're just
yeah.
fake. Like, look, I created a fake backend. I did all this stuff just to like show that I'm capable of doing this is important for employers, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to say this too is I think it also depends a little bit on like what your goal is, right? Like if you're learning, I know there's some people in here who are just learning to learn, right? But most people are motivated by work in some respect, like whether that's working for themselves or an employer. One sort of hack that I would give people is even when you're first starting out, even when you're like just getting into Python, start networking. Start like literally, we saw this in the group this week. I wrote a post and shout out, but one of our incubator members, Chris, he's fairly new. He's been in the group for I think maybe 2 months now, but he's been doing all the things. He's been taking
Yeah.
massive action. He's been showing up to every call that he can. He's been going to networking meetings, like which is one of the first things that we said when he came in. And what we say to everybody is like, you got to network. And so he took that to heart and he's like, I found a local coding group and he's been going to the local coding group. And this week, somebody that he met in the coding group, who's a CTO of some company, was like, hey, I took a look at your resume and you look like a perfect fit for this front end developer job that we have. Can you send me over like more information? Let's get set up with an interview. So, like, how cool is that? You come into a group, into a community, you get the support of the community of people encouraging you, showing you the path. You
You get a lot
actually
of
take the
feedback from the
action.
people in the group on your
Yeah.
resume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the other thing too, right? He didn't have a developer resume, so he put something together. He shared it with the group. Within like an hour, his resume looked a million times better.
Well, completely different too,
Yeah,
because I mean, and this is the problem, right? Like, I ran into this too, and I know Chris is coming from background in education, right? Your
there he
resume is going to
is.
look very different for different jobs, and so he did what anybody naturally would do, what I did originally, right? Is you write your resume, but you want to highlight the experience you have, but it's
Yeah,
not tech experience, and so
exactly.
it's kind of in the way, and so we helped him refine it to make it more tech focused and just better, right? Overall
Yeah.
for what he's trying to do
And
now.
and here's the reality, right? I think there's so much talk about how it's impossible to find a job and it's so hard and like that's because you're hearing the noise from the masses, right? You're hearing the hundreds of thousands of people who are just clicking easy apply over and over and over and being like the world is out to get me because I'm doing
Yeah.
the least effort thing and expecting the highest reward, right? Look at Chris. Chris is not like, I'm sorry, Chris, you're the man, but like you're not the best developer in the world. Let's be
He's
honest,
new.
right?
He's
But
starting
you're
out,
new,
right?
right?
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. But you're applying yourself. You're taking massive action. You're going out there. You're meeting people. You're talking to people. You're just sharing like what you're doing, and that's really what matters.
Well, think about it this
Yeah,
way too.
yeah.
I think this is
Bryce
the
saying, but Reddit says,
yeah.
yeah, Reddit, exactly,
This is the
exactly.
point though. This is the point though of going out to these meetups and stuff is that look, he met somebody there who got to meet him as a person. And dude, it doesn't matter what the hell your skills are because everybody that has a company knows there's a million people that can do the job they need filled. The point
Yeah,
is, can they find somebody that they like,
and they
that has a
trust,
good
and
personality, that they
yeah.
trust, that they'll work well with? Those are all way more important. So yeah. Yeah,
I
ignore
want
all
to.
the talking
I
heads, right? Because
genuinely
there's like a
want to.
million.
Yeah, I want to like make a shirt out of that phrase that Bryce
Yeah,
just said.
right.
But Reddit says.
And then just a
Anyway,
sad face.
yeah. Yeah. So all that to say, what I was gonna say before is even if you're brand new, you're just going out there and like starting out, here's something that can really help you. Just get like your foot in the door. Go find the company that you want to work for. Like literally just like if you could work for any company in the world, like you get to choose what company would that be? Then go on their LinkedIn and find, if you go to their company profile, you can see there's a link of like people who work here. Go through that list and find the developers, the CTO, the hiring manager, the tech, the dev advocate, everybody who works on the development team, and just friend them and send them a message when you do it and say, hey, my name is Russell. I'm brand new to like, I'm a new developer. I'm learning Python. Um, company I want to work for, Code Noobs. I'm brand new to Python. I'd love to get some like feedback from you about what helped you in your career. Right. So you're starting this network and it's not an ask for like something like, hey, I need a job or whatever. It's like, hey, I want your advice because people love giving advice. People love helping other people. It's natural. It's like built in. So if you can ask somebody, how can I be where you are in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, they're gonna guide you and give you, and maybe some won't, but at least if you get a couple, and then guess what? You have some people in the industry. This literally happened to me this week where somebody just reached out to me. I started a conversation and all of a sudden I realized like there were so many opportunities that we had to collaborate for business ideas and things like that. I even invited him on one of our live streams, so we may see him in a little bit, but he's a like blockchain developer, right? So it's just things like that where if you want to go somewhere, you got to follow the people who are already there. So it makes sense to reach out to them.
Well, I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say too, I think it is for starting out, like especially like I know like changing careers too, it's scary because like you were comfortable doing something for a long time. And now
Mhm.
it's like you're entering a whole new world. And it is terrifying. But I think you're absolutely right. Like that's a good approach is networking is important. And what's the worst that's gonna happen is they don't respond.
Right,
Or even if
exactly.
they say no, who cares? Then you just move on to the next group, the
Yeah.
next attempt. And it gets easier the more you do it. And I
Yeah.
think that's the important point. And the more you do it, the first time you see that positive reaction from it, you'll see the payback almost immediately if
Yeah.
it's
And
worthwhile.
and
So,
I would say this too. I think this is a good mindset to go into it with is don't go into this with outcomes in mind. Go into this with like meeting people and building your own community in mind. Not like what am I going to get out of this person down the road? Like, hey, I just want to learn from somebody. I want to meet somebody who's in here because I mean, I'll say this, after COVID, I feel like most people feel isolated and they really enjoy being around other people or interacting with other people. So if you can prompt that or start that for somebody else, I think that really benefits you as
well,
an
it's also
employee.
there's it's funny too. I've heard so many like shows, podcasts, and stuff on like how hard people find it to meet people nowadays because things have all gone online and because things are all virtual. You don't see people in person. It's hard to talk.
Right.
So yeah, starting that conversation, dude, people are more than willing to talk and more
Yeah.
than willing to engage. And if they don't want to, they won't. Who cares? You didn't hurt them by sending a message to say, hey,
Yeah.
how would I get there in 5 years or something? You're not hurting anybody. So yeah,
No.
just go for it.
Yeah. Just go for it. Absolutely. Do you guys have any other Python suggestions for anybody? Go ahead, Randall.
No
Oh,
more Python. Well, one more Python suggestion.
okay. Go for it.
Uh, if somebody's looking for a really awesome community that could potentially help them get a job as a
No clue.
developer,
No
that's
clue.
having a discount until Sunday on their premium exclusive membership, where would they
Hmm.
find that?
I don't know.
Hmm.
No. No, for real though, if you guys are sort of on the fence, if you're looking to become a web developer and you're looking for something that's just, your way to actually commit. I know this for me was one of the biggest game changers was not necessarily a specific course or boot camp or learning or YouTube video. None of that made a big difference. The one thing, and I'm curious about you guys too, but I would say the one biggest thing that made a difference in my career as a web developer was making a commitment. And for me, that commitment was committing to the boot camp because I was like, this is it. I'm becoming a developer. Like, that's it. But I think it wasn't necessarily the boot camp that did anything because the boot camp kind of sucked. I
No,
think
it
it was
sucked.
more of just the like mental commitment and the financial commitment, which was like, hey, I'm not messing around anymore. Like
It
I'm
was
not
actually
like
our set.
floating this idea as something I might want to
It
do.
was our
Like this is
Saturday
what I want to do.
meetings for me
Yeah.
that actually did more than anything else because it was that ongoing commitment that we made to each other too as a
Yeah,
group
totally. Well,
that we're
that's
doing this
that's sort of
now, going forward.
kind of yeah, I mean that's actually I never really thought about it so much that way, but the commitment was both financially and like just the fact that we had that accountability all the time. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's sort of why we started Code Noobs because we realized that while we were doing this boot camp, there just wasn't any good place for developers to find community or find accountability. And so we
And Stack
realized
Overflow
that
sucks.
yeah, and the reality is like, look, you can buy, you not buy, you can find any information about technology you want out there for free. You can find how to learn Python, how to learn JavaScript, how to learn literally code any coding language out there is on YouTube or any of these resources that we just shared with you. I mean, go to your local library, you can check out books. It's not rocket science. The information's out there. What's not out there is the community, right? That's something you can't get.
And the
And
mentors, I would
the
also add, yeah.
mentors and really what I would say more than anything else is the committed community, right? Because the people who are inside the web dev incubator, they're not here playing games or playing around. They're actually committed to a future as a developer. And so if that's you, this is the group for you. If you're just here to like play games and like you want to play around with code and like have fun, that's cool, but probably not the community for you.
It blows
Um,
me away almost every week how much everybody in the group is doing sometimes. Like
yeah,
it's just crazy, but
and
it's
that's
awesome.
that's the truth,
It's
right? It's
awesome.
like this isn't like there's nothing special here. It's just people to support you, right? That's the reality, and you committing to your future with a financial commitment, and that's literally like 90% of why we even charge because you're more likely to do the stuff if there's something holding like your ass to the fire, for lack of better words, right? Um, Go ahead, Randall. Are you gonna say
So
something?
if that is something that you're interested in, until tomorrow, we're offering 40% off. And
Yeah.
after tomorrow, it goes back to normal price.
Yep.
And so you can go check it out for yourself. Go to codenoobs.io. If you want to talk with one of us first, just ping us on Facebook. But really, this is probably, if you're interested in becoming a web developer, you can ask anybody in the group, and they've been posting in the comments how useful it is. But this is the game changer. I mean, we've all been through
Yeah.
boot camps. We've all tried learning on
Yeah.
our own, and this is just something that literally this is will take you the next step without a problem. So
Yeah.
consider it.
Yeah, definitely consider it. Again, it's the price is changing tomorrow. Uh, if you are sort of on the fence and you want to talk to one of us, we do free action calls. The action call is really to just discuss with you where you are as a developer, if this program is right for you, and give you a little bit more information about what's in the program, how it works, and answer all your questions. Um, if you're sort of on the fence, but you still want an opportunity to get the pricing, book an action call today for sometime this week. We don't take action calls on the weekend. I like to just enjoy my weekends, but book a call today so that for some time in the week, and I will extend the pricing for you if you decide to join. Um, but the only way you're going to get that is if you book the call before I change the pricing. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and do that now. If not, you can sign up right now. Just go to codenoobs.io, click on the incubator link, and follow the checkout. You'll get instant access to the course, instant access to the Telegram, instant access to us. You'll get all the replay vaults. You can see every single mentoring call we've ever done. And that's like over a year's worth of mentoring calls.
It's a
I mean,
ton
that's
of content.
2 hours,
Yeah.
2 hours twice a week. So 4 hours of calls times 50. That's 100 hours of content right there that you can watch.
Yeah.
There's also projects in there that you can code along with. We have 2 weekly calls that you get to share live with us. So you get to watch us every week, but if you want to actually talk to us, share code with us, code along with us, that's what we do inside the program. Every Tuesday, we have a code along call. Every Saturday, we have our accountability and motivation call, which is today. And if you guys are in the incubator, check out the Telegram group for the link to the call, which is going to be in about 20 minutes. So thank you guys
How
for
much
tuning
is
in.
your future worth to you? That's
Yeah,
what you
I
gotta
mean,
ask
that's really the
yourself.
truth. It's like, is $297 per month for maybe 6 to 12 months, which isn't really that big of a commitment. Is that worth you getting a 6-figure job or more this year and maybe a
If you do the math,
$200,000,
it
$300,000
answers
job?
itself.
Yeah, like I mean, like this is something that I just want to say this, and I'm not trying to call people out, but I am. Okay, so here's the deal. I've talked to a lot of you guys out there, and a lot of you guys are really good at saying, "Oh, well, I just can't afford it," and I get that, right? We always sort of have things that we can't afford, but the reality is, many of the people that I've talked to are like, "I can't afford it," and then I see them posting on Facebook the next day that they went out to the bar with their friends, and I know they spent $100 at the bar or $200 at the bar. And here's the reality: is $297 per month is an insane deal for what you're getting. It's basically $10 a day to have 3 mentors who you can ask any question to all the time, have a developer community, have a full stack curriculum, and have 2 weekly calls. That's pretty insane. It's $10 a day. And instead of actually committing to like your future, to getting 6 figures, to having a better future, to having the things that you want in your life, you can sit here and say, "Hey, I don't have the money," and then spend that money somewhere else. That's what a lot of people will probably do. But if you're ready to make that commitment, this is your time, this is your opportunity, and this is the cheapest it's going to be for a very long time.
But that's
So
just it.
take
It is a
advantage of it.
commitment though, because I remember when we did the
Totally.
boot camp, like I didn't do anything else really that year. I
Yeah.
didn't go out because I wanted to get it
And
off the ground as fast as possible, and that's what you have to
yeah.
do.
And that's the reality is like
Yeah.
there's YouTube videos out there, become a developer in 5 minutes. But it's not the truth. Like we all know that it's not reality. This takes a lot of work, it takes commitment. It's hard, but with a community, you can 100% do it, and you can do it way faster too.
And
Awesome.
in 5 to 10 years, you're going to be 5 to 10 years older. Are you still going to want to be doing what you're doing now and potentially hating like you're hating it now?
Yeah.
Or do you really just want to be a web developer, which in 5 to 10 years doing this, it's almost guaranteed. So
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity out there if you're willing to take it. So with that, thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to be part of the incubator, we're more than happy to have you. This is probably your best chance to get in at this pricing for a very long time. I'm talking months, or if not till next year. To be honest, we're not going to be offering this a lot. So feel free to join. Like I said, if you want to book a free action call, also just go to codenoobs.io. You'll see it. It's right there. It says book a free action call. You can book it right there. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. If you are in the incubator, check out the Telegram for the link, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes for motivation and accountability. Happy Saturday, everybody. Good to see you, and we'll see you next week.
Later, guys.
Peace, everybody.